Some trains are moving, some are off their tracks. Welcome to Short Shifts, a product of the NHL Wraparound podcast. Vic Morren, Neil Smith on Monday, November 10th, 2025. You like a good train wreck?
Well, you're going to see a number of them if you look at the NHL right now, but you're also going to see some trains that are they're like those Japanese bullet trains. They're going really well, and they're going to be trains that you are not used to seeing moving at this speed as we get to them.
But human nature usually dictates that people kind of like to see the bad news. And so we're going to start with the bad news, and we're going to start with 3 train wrecks. And the first place we're going to go is Edmonton on Saturday evening, where the Colorado Avalanche put a 9-1 shellacking on the Oilers. Cale Makar scored twice in the first period, and it was 6-1 after 2 periods. The Avs kept pouring it on. 4 players had 2 goals, including Nathan MacKinnon, who had a 4-point game, and the league-leading Avs also won 5-4 in Vancouver on Sunday. But we're here to really talk about the Oilers because this was their worst margin of loss at home, actually equaled it, which was originally established in a game that they played against Buffalo in January of 2009. There's a number of places to look here, Neil. Is it the assistants, Glenn Gulletson, now head coach in Dallas, and Paul Coffey has returned to his role as special advisor, so they're not behind the bench with Chris Knobloch? Is it Trent Frederick, the UFA they elected to keep, a goal in 16 games, and guys that they were looking to step up and perhaps fill some of the void that was left by the departures of Evander Kane, Connor Brown, Corey Perry, even Jeff Skinner, Matt Savoy, 1 goal, 1 assist in 16 games, Isaac Howard, 2 goals, 1 assist in 15 games, Noah Philp, same numbers in 10 games. So clearly, there's a problem here, and we haven't even gotten to the goaltending and defense yet.
I can't see how it's the people behind the bench that's causing them to lose 9-1. I don't think we've emphasized this was a home game. That's 10 times worse than losing 9-1 in Denver. You lost 9-1 in Edmonton, Alberta, in your home rink. Just an awful game for the Edmonton Oilers, and I think the depth is lacking. I have no doubt about that. But even that shouldn't cause a 9-1 loss. Their goaltending is not good. We've been saying it for 3 years now. When I say it's not good, it is good. It's just not good enough. It's not up to the level of the rest of the team. They don't have the depth. Their defense isn't as good as it was. And even with 97-29, and of course the ever coughing up Evan Bouchard with his $10 million contract, and he needs some Smith Brothers coffee drops. Cough drops, rather, not coffee.
I knew where you're going.
Coffee. It's just not good enough. I mean, it's going to be a real test for Chris Knobloch to put this thing back together.
They're going to get Zach Hyman back shortly. They've also been notoriously slow starters, particularly the last 3 years. But let's face it, this is a little bit different landscape in the West because Anaheim is better. San Jose's better. Chicago's better. Seattle's better. Utah's better. All clubs that missed the playoffs a year ago. Now, are they all making the playoffs? Absolutely not. Maybe 1 or 2 out of that group, perhaps Utah and the Anaheim Ducks. But this now makes their climb and their road all that much more difficult because although you can argue that St. Louis and Minnesota maybe have taken a little bit of a step back, you got a handful of teams that are clearly improved on where they've been, and they can compete now. And this is going to make it that much harder for the Oilers.
It is going to make it a lot harder. I have no doubt that they will make the playoffs. It's where they end up landing. And to be honest, it's surprising. I mean, 2 years ago, They had that incredibly slow start. They changed coaches. Chris Knobloch came in, who had been Connor McDavid's coach in Erie and junior, and seemed to turn the whole thing around. They ended up going to the final and losing in Game 7 with Florida. Ken Holland left. Stan Bowman came in and took his place as general manager. And now the decisions are by Stan Bowman and his crew, his group, his management group. And a couple of them haven't been good. I mean, the decision to keep Trent Frederick is baffling when you think about they let Connor Brown walk, who's having a great start this year in New Jersey. So I'm not saying everything Stan's doing is wrong, but when you're paying guys the amount of money that they're paying now to Draisaitl, Bouchard, Nurse, and of course McDavid, there's not a lot of scraps left over to pay those third and fourth liners.
And you'd been saying this for a while, so the chicken is coming home to roost here, so to speak.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, the Oilers have taught us the last 2 years that you never say it's over with them, because they can turn around on a dime and start throwing a bunch of wins together. But it is ugly right now.
And it's not going to get any easier, because Monday evening they host the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then after that, they head out on a 7-game road trip to Philly, Columbus, Carolina, Buffalo, Washington, Tampa, and Florida. And we're going to be well beyond the quarter pole at that point, and we should have a much better idea of just how difficult this climb is going to be for the Oilers the rest of the way.
Yeah, we should have a good indication. Vic, the one thing the road trip could do, though, is bring the team together. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they can pull it all together, because they're together on the road for quite a while and a long way from home. So as we said, we never put anything past the Oilers, but they're making it tougher on themselves.
It'll be a 12-day trip that you were speaking of coming up. But speaking about clubs that are at home on the road, and this leads us to train wreck number 2. The New York Rangers, 24 hours after becoming the first team in NHL history to win 7 road games before winning at home. They did that in a 4-1 win in Detroit on Friday. They come home and get trounced by the Islanders 5-0. They've been blanked at Madison Square Garden 5 times in 7 home games. They're 0-6-1. They have led for 2.8% of the total playing time at MSG this season. So this is a club that is so fragile in their own building right now. They're only as good as long as the score is 0-0.
Yeah. Having lived there for 11 years in Madison Square Garden, I can tell you, I never went through anything like this. This would be just horrible, being at the games and the ugliness of the fans at the games like this. And it's not like they're getting in free to watch the games. They're paying a huge amount of money. And it's very difficult. Folks, you got to realize, when you play at Madison Square Garden, it's difficult for the fans to get to the game. It's not easy. I mean, maybe New Yorkers understand it so well that to them it's easy, but to the normal person out there, you know, you got to find parking blocks and blocks away. You got to hike yourself into the Garden. It's just not an easy place to get to for entertainment. It's great when you're in there. The venue is amazing. The atmosphere is amazing. But as amazing as it is, it can be that ugly as well. And I'm sure it was when the hated Islanders came in for their first time this season, who have had their own struggles. And I mean, they looked like world beaters in that game. Anders Lee, his goal, after they had already gotten an empty net goal, Anders Lee scored on Shesterkin on a beautiful play to make it 5-0. I mean, it was plain ugly. And Islanders played great.
Bo Horvat off to a terrific start as well, because I don't want that to go left unsaid. But like so many of these games during this awful start at home for New York, they had a reasonably good start for the first 10 minutes. And then when that first goal goes in, it's like the pin hits the balloon. The air is out of the building. the team is dispirited. You can see it almost to the point, and you were talking about the transportation and having to get into the city. I had a buddy of mine that went to this game, and after the first goal, I texted him, and I said, have you called ahead for your car yet? In the first period.
What does this mean? Let's talk about that. What does this bad start mean for the Rangers' chances? They're playing well on the road, right? So if they can get it going at home, they're playing well enough when you combine the two things to contend to make the playoffs. But you're not going to make the playoffs when you can't win at home.
Pure and simple. And they'll have their next chance to break their slide in their building Monday when they host Nashville. And they can't get it done here. You know you got a real problem.
Well, but I'll go backwards, Vic, and say, you know you got a real problem when you can't get up and beat the Islanders at home. The Islanders are a non-playoff team last year. Don't know what they're going to be this year. Nobody picked them to make the playoffs before the season started. I think they've looked better than anybody expected so far. But it's the Islanders. They're your rival. They're the team that you're supposed to want to beat. Even if you've played 10 nights in a row, you still want to beat them. And they come out and throw a complete flub like they did in this game. I can only imagine what's going on inside of Two Penn Plaza.
Want another train wreck?
Yeah.
How about the Toronto Maple Leafs, who before this weekend were riding a 3-game winning streak? They dropped 2 games in Scotiabank Arena to Boston and Carolina on Hall of Fame weekend. On Saturday, against the Bruins, Anthony Stolarz gives up 4 goals on 19 shots in a little less than 25 minutes of play, and he gets replaced by Dennis Hildeby, who gets the start on Sunday and had to face 4 second-period breakaways, all of which he stopped. But the Leafs still failed to hold a 4-2 lead. Craig Berube is beside himself at the way the Leafs have been playing defensively in that game against Carolina. The Leafs are outshot 47-20 and out-attempted 89-35. And before the game, all of the Hall of Fame inductees were on the ice. And it's almost like the Rangers having their celebratory nights at Madison Square Garden. They can't play. This was like the same thing. If ever you need a reason for some sort of motivation, it's right there in front of you before the game. And like the Rangers, the Leafs did not deliver on either night this weekend.
They didn't. And the other thing is that you play back-to-back home games. It's not common in the NHL that you would play 2 nights in a row at home. But you lose to the Boston Bruins 5-3. Now, Boston, everybody knows, is not an elite team this year. I'm putting it mildly. And you lose at home to Boston, a rival, another rival, team that knocks you out in the playoffs on a regular basis. Okay, so now you got to get up for Carolina, right? You got to get up for Carolina. They're a good team. You've lost the night before. You got to come out and beat them. Well, even when they had the lead in this game, they didn't deserve it. Yeah. Carolina deserved to have the lead, was outplaying them. And had it not been at one point for the histrionics of John Tavares, who I think is playing out of this world, they would have been down even more. Nylander got 2 goals early in the game. Tavares scored. But we don't know what's going on inside the room. We can only say that their goaltending hasn't been good enough. Their defensive game hasn't been good enough. And you know what? It's a matter of time before this falls on the coaches again. I mean, it really is. There's only so many things that Tree Living can do, you know, as this season moves along, and they've got a new guy at the top. Shanahan's gone. They've got the new person running it from MLSE. Yes, Pelly is in there, who knows about as much about hockey as, you know, probably the man in the moon. And so we'll see. This is not a good situation. I mean, you've really hit the nail on the head with these 3 train wrecks. You know, the Edmonton Oilers, Stanley Cup finalists 2 years in a row. The New York Rangers, self-imploded last season, thought they'd put it back together for this season, signed one of the hottest free agents in the offseason in Gavrikov from LA Kings. They're just crapping the bed at home. And then you've got the Toronto Maple Leafs that are way underperforming. And so the fan bases for these three teams must be pulling their hair out of their head.
Sounds like you're ready for some good news then.
I am. Give me some good news.
All right, let's look at some trains that are actually heading in the right direction. We're going to start with the Anaheim Ducks. 7 straight wins, 9 out of 10. They're 11-3-1 this season. After back-to-back wins over Vegas on Saturday and then come home with the Winnipeg Jets on Sunday, Leo Carlson tied for second in the NHL in scoring with Connor Bedard, and we're going to get to him in a second. Nathan MacKinnon is first. He had 2 goals in each of the 2 games this weekend, and Beckett Seneca scored goals 5 and 6 against the Jets. Now, I want to point something out here. Saturday's game, they had a 3-1 lead in the third period in Vegas. Got outshot 24-9. I mean, they were taking on water. 24-9 in the third period in overtime. Goaltending held up with Peter Mrazek. They managed to win on a goal by Jacob Trouba. Now, I fully expect this team to be in the playoffs. I love the youth. I love the veteran leadership. I love what Lucas Dostal is bringing as the number 1 in goal. Oh, by the way, he was my breakout goalie this year. Just thought I would say that. How they would do in the playoffs remains to be seen. We're still 5 months away from that. But I'm going to tell you something. This team is fast. They get on you quickly, and they're for real.
And the one thing you didn't emphasize enough, I don't think, in that summation of the Ducks is that they played in Vegas on Saturday, flew home to Anaheim while Winnipeg was waiting for them in Anaheim. Winnipeg was rested. They were tired, and they won the second of back-to-backs with their backup goalie and Peter Mrazek that they got from Detroit in the Gibson deal. That is a big deal, what I just said. Winnipeg will be furious that they couldn't come up with a win with a tired team, and Joel Kenville and his group will be thrilled that they could come out of this with 2 wins. They're doing everything right. So hats off to the Ducks.
In this streak, by the way, they've beaten Florida twice, Detroit, Jersey, Dallas, Vegas, and Winnipeg. And they will face Colorado on Tuesday, which to me is going to be can't-miss television.
Yeah.
Chicago Blackhawks, 8-5-3. Third in the Central. Connor Bedard, a goal and 3 primary assists and a +3, 4-0 shutout in Calgary on Friday. He also had a goal and 2 assists in the 5-1 win at Detroit on Sunday. And as mentioned, he is tied for second in league scoring with 25 points, along with Leo Carlson. It's in his last year of his entry-level contract, and now with Frank Nazar signing the contract that he did, I think Bedard is now in for even a bigger payday given the start that he's had. He looks content. Everything looks great in Chicago right now.
It sure does. I mean, and Jeff Blashill, we've got to mention, doing a real good job, obviously, for the Blackhawks. The Red Wings head coach for many years, 7 seasons, I believe it was, and now in Chicago, goes into Little Caesars Arena with his Blackhawks for the only time this season and wins 5-1 against the team that fired him. Now, when I say that, he's not troubled by the fact that he got fired. I mean, he'd missed the playoffs year after year after year because he didn't have the horses. And then it turned around that Stevie Yzerman decided when he got the job as GM to bring in his own coach. So that's all well and good, but hats off to Jeff Blashill and the job he's doing with the Blackhawks. Remember, we had him on NHL Wraparound and talked to him about the assignment, and he was excited about where the Blackhawks were at that point. He said, I could be walking into a very good situation at the right time. Well, you can't say that he's wrong to this point.
No, he's not. Just a footnote that On Friday evening, Frank Nazar was injured, taking a cross-check from Joel Farabee. He did not play against Detroit on Sunday, but is listed as day-to-day, so it looks like he has avoided a major injury. Other train on the move, the San Jose Sharks. Remember, they were the last team to win a game. They are now 7-6-3, 7-2-1 in their last 10. Macklin celebrating goal and an assist to the 2-1 win over Winnipeg on Friday, and then scored the opening goal in a 3-1 win over Florida on Saturday. He is fourth in the league in scoring with 24 points. He, along with Will Smith, have combined on 13 goals this season. That is tied for tops in the NHL with Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins of the Oilers. So this guy is truly an emerging superstar. You can see his carriage on the ice. He's engaged. He talks to his teammates. He talks to officials. This guy's the real deal.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. He's a treasure for sure, and the Sharks are on the upswing. And it's kind of cool that we're talking about eye-openers here, and that the three teams we're talking about were cellar dwellers. In the Anaheim Ducks, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the San Jose Sharks have all had their tough times over the last 5 years, but they're all this year looking like they could be at least knocking on the door to get into the playoffs wild card.
Brilliant rundown here.
It is. It is a really a great rundown by my partner in crime.
Just a final note on the Sharks, that they became the sixth team since the President's Trophy came of age in 1986 to beat the President's Trophy winner and the Stanley Cup champion on consecutive days, defeating the Jets and the Panthers.
Good stuff.
Let's get to some other stuff. Jersey Devils 7-0-0 at home after a shootout win over the Pittsburgh Penguins on Saturday. The Jets, and we had Kevin Cheveldae off a week ago when they were just starting out their California road trip, and it hasn't gone well for them. Lost all 3 games and only scored 2 goals in California. They still have Vancouver, Seattle, and Calgary on this trip, so there's a couple of border crossings in there as well. But I got to tell you, Neil, the Jets are one team that I'm not worried about. Every team is going to go through fits and starts during the course of the season, and if this is a little bit of a skid now for Winnipeg, I see them coming out of it before long.
I totally agree with you. They've got Connor Hellebuck in net, the best goalie in the league. Last year, the best player in the league, according to the votes for the MVP award. I have no worries about the Winnipeg Jets. It's the National Hockey League of 2025 where, Anaheim's played the night before. Winnipeg's sitting in the hotel. Winnipeg is clearly the better team, we have to say, as overall. And yet, the Anaheim Ducks come home tired, beat Winnipeg Jets. That's what I'm trying to illustrate here, is that's the NHL of today. There's such parity that you really can't predict with certainty who's going to win a game.
And I don't think we could have predicted the St. Louis Blues sliding early this season, and kind of something that symbolizes the start of their year. Took place in their game against Seattle on Saturday evening. And for those of you that saw Elliot Friedman, I got to tell you, I take notes the same way everybody else does when I'm trying to prepare this show. And this is going to sound verbatim, but trust me, I had these very same things written down. And this is how the game ended. Blues had a 3-2 lead late in that third period. Joel Hofer, playing in goal instead of Jordan Binnington, took a shot at the empty net, missed it by about 2 feet. In the final seconds, the Blues couldn't clear the puck. Chandler Stevenson scored with 2 seconds left in regulation on a goal that was actually a booth review, not initiated by the Blues, but a review to see if there was goalie interference. The goal stood. Blues lose the game in overtime on a goal by Shane Wright. They never possessed the puck. And I think when Jim Montgomery took over last year, everything seemed to go right. There was great momentum there. They made the playoffs to the surprise of many. And this year, everything appears to be going in exactly the opposite direction in St. Louis.
And it starts in the trainer's room with the amount of injuries that they've had. And so far, they haven't been able to pull it together. I feel bad for Doug Armstrong and Jim Montgomery, but this is why the Ducks, the Blackhawks, and the Sharks are in good shape, because teams like the Blues are in bad shape, and that's what happens in this league.
And nobody feels sorry for you in this league.
Nobody.
All right. Injury list is pretty long, pretty significant, so I'm just going to rip right through these. Pierre-Luc Dubois, we had mentioned on the show last week that he was expected to be out for an extended period of time. That indeed has come to pass. He had surgery Friday for abdominal and adductor muscle injury. He'll be out for 3 to 4 months. Jalen Chatfield, who we had mentioned, had left the game against Minnesota last Thursday on a high hit from Tyler Pitlick. He is now out indefinitely. Philip Hollander for the Pittsburgh Penguins, out 3 months. Rookie forward has a blood clot in his leg. Zane Parekh, rookie defenseman for the Calgary Flames, out week to week. Suffered on a hit in the loss on Friday to Chicago. Michael Misa of the Sharks, out week to week, lower body injury. Dougie Hamilton out at least a week with a lower body injury suffered in last Thursday. William Karlsson, Golden Knights, left in the first period of their overtime loss to Anaheim on Saturday with a lower body injury. He will be reevaluated on Monday. Joey Daccord, who has played quite well in net for Seattle this year, missed both Kraken games over the weekend in St. Louis and Dallas with an upper body injury. On the return front, Patrick Kane came back against the Rangers for the Red Wings on Friday after missing 9 games. He actually missed an empty net after a Jonathan Quick turnover. And Cole Perfetti made his season debut at Anaheim on Sunday. And finally, goaltender Caden Primo, reclaimed off waivers by the Carolina Hurricanes from Toronto. He was originally claimed by Toronto from Carolina on October 6th. I'm out of breath. What else you got?
Casey Middlestat is considered week to week for the Bruins now with a lower body injury. Good news for the Rangers. Vincent Trocheck is on the ice for the morning skate, getting prepared to play Nashville tonight. And Zach McEwen will be in the lineup in today's game for the New Jersey Devils against the New York Islanders.
All right. You're bringing something to the table here.
Well, I'm trying. I'd bring more than just food.
On Monday, the Hockey Hall of Fame ceremony will take place. The ring ceremony was Friday, Hall of Fame game Sunday, and this evening, the official induction ceremony. For 6 players going in, Joe Thornton, Zdeno Chara, Duncan Keith, and Alexander McGillney, along with gold medalist and world champion from U.S. women's teams, Brianna Decker and Jennifer Botterill, gold medalist and world champion for the Canadian teams. And in the builders category, 4 decades as head coach behind the BU bench, Jack Parker and Danielle Savageau, 4 decades as a coach, including the first ever Olympic gold for the Canadian women in 2002, and she coached Jennifer Botterill on that team as well. But I got to tell you something, partner. Next year on this date, I have no intention of doing this show because it's about time you get recognized that it's not only the 94 Stanley Cup. You have 2 Calder Cups to your credit. You've got 2 more rings for the New York Islanders. I mean, work there as a scout. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's not the NHL Hall of Fame. Your resume speaks for itself. And I'm not just saying this to be nice because we still have a show to do on Wednesday. But the truth is when you take the collective body of work in your history in the NHL and also other leagues, because you are also an owner of the team as well, it's certainly deserving to be at the Hall, and that's where you should be a year from tonight.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Vic, and we'll see what the hockey gods have to say about that.
We have a couple of passings to note, and you were close with both of these gentlemen. Mel Bridgman, first overall pick in 1975 to the Flyers and the Senators' first ever general manager, passed away on Saturday at age 70. He played 977 games in a 14-season career with the Flyers, Flames, Devils, Red Wings, and Canucks. Also played in the Stanley Cup Final in 1976 and 1980 for the Flyers, and he was certainly contemporary of yours when he became that first ever GM for Ottawa.
He did, and I knew him too when he was in Detroit because, I was working with Detroit at that time. The greatest memory I have of Mel Bridgman, and probably the greatest thing that you should look for if you're listening to this podcast, is there was a photo of Bobby Nystrom tipping the puck into the net in that afternoon game that won the Islanders their first Stanley Cup in 1980. And Mel Bridgman is in the photo looking at the referee going like, does this count? The way you do when you're on the ice. I know exactly what that feeling is like, could that have been offside? Is it going to count? But Mel Bridgman was a tough customer. Boy, he fought everybody. Played for the Victoria Cougars as a junior player in the Western League, wore number 9, first overall pick, as you said, to Philadelphia Flyers. The Philadelphia Flyers only first overall pick ever in their history, by the way. And was known for that big mustache, and played during the Broad Street Bully days or just after that, but continued that, bullyish way that the Flyers had. Quite a competitor. I last saw him here at home when he surprisingly called me and said he was going to be in town here in Greenville, South Carolina. And I went out and met him with my hockey buddies that I played adult hockey with. He told stories all night that were just great. And Mel, I'll miss you. And he was a really good guy. Leon Stickle passed away November 5th at age 77. Did a lot of games in the NHL. And what's really unique about this, Vic, I explained this to Margaret the other day, is that they have something really in common, because Leon Stickle was the linesman in that game that the Islanders won the Stanley Cup, and he missed an offside that would be called today by video review. It didn't need video review back then. Everybody saw it, that it was offside, and yet it counted. The Islanders ended up scoring an important goal, and it wasn't the Nystrom goal, but it was an important goal, and Leon Stickle could never get rid of that hanging over him the rest of his career.
He couldn't, but remember when we did the Islanders special back in May, that Denny Potvin absolved him from wrongdoing, because at the moment that the drop pass was made and then brought back into the zone, it was the goal that actually made it 2-1 in the first period. There was a player that had skated right in front of Stickle at the moment that puck was moving in and out of the blue line and blocked his vision, and he was unable to see the play. So it's unfortunate that he is remembered so much for that, because he officiated 2,069 regular season games, 206 playoff games, 6 Stanley Cup finals. And I think what a lot of players of that era would also say is he had a real rapport with the players on the ice. And that's something that was really special. I know that you knew him as well to be a real gentleman.
Yeah, I knew him from Long Island, from when he would come in and do Islander games. They would stay in a hotel near the Nassau Coliseum, and I spent time kibitzing with him and with others. I mean, the linesmen and the referees are great guys, and normally they're all fun-loving guys, and Leon Stickle was the same way. Really funny guy, fun guy to be around, and again, he'll be missed by all of us that knew Leon.
Let's look ahead to the schedule on Monday and Tuesday, just games that we're looking at. Nashville at the Rangers, of course. We've already done the Rangers ad nauseum, but the Predators, after this game, leave for Stockholm for the Global Series, being played against the Penguins on Friday and Saturday later this week. And, of course, the Rangers trying to win their first home game of the season. Columbus at Edmonton, Oilers coming off that 9-1 shellacking on Saturday. How will they respond before they go off on their 7-game road trip? And Florida at Vegas, rematch of the 2023 Stanley Cup Final. And on Tuesday, Anaheim in Colorado. We've already talked about it. High octane. This is one that's not to be missed.
That's going to be a good one. And Joel Kenville going back in some ways back to another place where he did some coaching with the Colorado Avalanche.
On Tuesday, it will be Veterans Day in the United States, Remembrance Day in Canada, and the date coincides with the 107th anniversary of the armistice going into effect, officially ending World War I at 11 a.m. local time. Neil, your parents, Sid, Marg Smith, my dad, Mickey Morren, served in the armed forces for their country, and we thank them and certainly all of the veterans out there for their service to their respective countries.
Absolutely. And Islanders do a real good job of honoring a local hero in every home game. And I know a lot of the teams do this, if not all of them, and well-deserved. Veterans Day, the veterans really deserve your thank yous. I will say to someone who might be wearing a ball cap with their division or ship or when they were in service, thank you for your service, because, there's a very small percentage of the population that goes into the armed forces. And without them, where would we be? So thank you to all of them that have made our country what it is.
Our website is NHLWraparound.com. Patrick Hoffman has dropped a new piece on New York Centric, talking about some quick thoughts on the blue shirts, and I'm sure that they're not overly positive, so I have to go and read that because he just posted it. We have Neil's Nuggets. Neil put together some pretty interesting numbers on having to play back-to-back games, so check that out. And you, sir, 7-3 over the weekend, including a 4-1 on Sunday. So, you were in a little bit of a slump. Heading into the weekend, you had 3 straight losing days. Not catastrophic, but losing days. So I have to ask you, because like we said before, every season goes in fits and starts, but Artemi Panarin shaved his head for the Rangers' 4-1 win in Detroit on Friday. He scored a goal and 2 assists. And he also did so in the summer of 23. Proceeded to have career highs with 49 goals and 120 points. So I ask you, if you slump, you shaving your head?
I don't have the amount of hair that Artemi Panarin has to grow back onto his head. So the amount that I have, I'm leaving right there.
And I certainly had no say with my state of follicle challenge. NHL Wraparound coming up Wednesday. Short shifts again on Friday. Enjoy the hockey Monday and Tuesday, and we'll speak to you again on Wednesday. Take care.